Hello and welcome back to the garden. And it's been a while since I've managed to film a video, about a month I would say. Different reasons why, won't bore you with the details, but to suffice to say I'm actually back out in the garden. And it's great, it's actually dry, it's not raining today. And if you watch here in the UK or you're a subscriber from the UK, you'll know all about the floods we've had over the last couple of months, particularly this week. These paths completely flood most winters, but this year it's been at least once or twice a week. Hence why I have so many of these seedlings. These are candelabra seedlings. I have lots of candelabras either side in these borders, and these are post-fed white candelabras, particularly pretty. And I thought, right, I'm going to make the most of it. I've got thousands of them in all the paths. I'm going to use them down in the bog garden. So I'm just picking them out today, putting them in a seed tray until I get the chance to get down in the bog garden, which has been completely underwater for so long now. And I'll plant them down there. May not flower this year, but next year they should be stunning. Anyhow, today I'm going to add some new perennials, some old favourites and a shrub. So let me show you the plants that I've got to add today here in the white garden. So the first perennial that I'm going to add is this Cenolophium denudatum, otherwise known as the Baltic parsley. And this was one of the very first plants that I added here in the white garden when I started all of this 4 years ago. And this is an umbellifer, and it's one of 2 umbellifers that grow in the white garden. And I just love these plants. Doesn't look much now, fern-like leaves which grow quite quickly once we get into mid-spring. And it hides, and why I plant them here is it hides all of this vegetation that's dying off from the allium bulbs. Grows and spread in width to about 2 feet, but in height it grows anywhere between 3 to 4 feet. Has very tall, erect flower stems that will emerge in a couple of weeks' time. Lovely blousy white flowers, reminds me very much of the cow parsley that we have here in the UK. And I just love this particular plant. I bought it originally when I added all of these plants 4 years ago from my local nursery. Hadn't seen it at that point in any of our local garden centres, although I have seen it in recent years. And these ones I've actually dug out because they do self-seed around. So I've dug this one out from over the other side of the border, and I'm going to add it here to hide all of this tatty mess that's coming up from the allium bulbs. Now it likes to be in full sun to partial shade, which is good for this side of the border. And it likes to be in moist and well-drained soil. Now my soil is very claggy, very clay, very wet at the moment, and I'm not able to add too much, but these ones do seem to be surviving okay. So I'm just going to add it there, and it looks so small at this point, but within a couple of weeks it will really fill out this area. So I've got a few of these to add today. It certainly doesn't need watering in at this point because we're due more rain. But let's go on to the next plant that I'm going to add. So the next plant that I've got to add is a geranium, and this is a geranium that I've grown for a few years. It's called White Doves, and you won't again see this very often in your local garden centre. I got this from the nursery where I purchased all my original plants from the white garden, and these are divisions that I took in the autumn and I potted them up, so they're very young plants, and I'm going to add them here to the front of the border. And that to replace these lavenders. This is lavender, or was a lavender hidcot. This is bred to grow in the UK and it is completely dead. It was a gamble to plant these lavenders. I wanted lavenders underneath the roses here. Didn't work out. Big mistake. I should have known that my garden was too wet for them. And having the wettest winter, or one of the wettest winters this year that we've had, obviously wasn't a time to plant lavenders. So they are getting taken out, at least I'm digging them out. And I'm going to replace them with this lovely geranium. Now this geranium will grow in part shade. It can grow quite large, around about 1 to 2 feet in spread, in width, and in height the flowers are around about 12 to 18 inches. Lovely tall single white flowers, and it flowers all summer long right into the autumn, particularly if you cut back the spent flower heads. So I'm going to replace them exactly where the lavenders were. And you can, I don't know whether you can see, but the soil is particularly wet and claggy. I have very much clay soil and it's not good. But I don't think these geraniums will mind it. So I'm going to add some of the compost that I've got in the bottom, just because all of the goodness has been washed away from this soil over the last couple of months. Just to give it a bit of a good start. And I'm just going to plant it in the planting hole, just like that. And hopefully it won't mind all of this wet soil. So I'll add those all the way around here, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. The plan is still to lift all of this turf as soon as the ground dries out a little bit, because this is all going to be gravel, and I'm going to add an arbour in the middle of this area. But for now I'll just continue and add these geraniums. The next plant is Selinum wallichianum. And this one, common name is the milk parsley. Again, another umbellifer. Very much like the first one, fern-like leaves, although these are very finely cut, these particular ones. I'll bring you in a little bit closer so you can see them more in detail. This is a young seedling that I've dug up earlier today, and I'm going to plant that somewhere else in the garden. Unlike the Baltic parsley, the milk parsley flowers later on in the season. So you've got one that flowers early on, late spring, early summer. Then you've got one that flowers from midsummer to right until the autumn. So that's why I like having both of these in the garden. Another reason why I like having both of them in the garden, because they hide all of the awful tatty leaves that you have from the allium plants early on in the spring. And then the lily bulbs that I use, lily plants that I have. Again, I don't like the foliage later on in the season from them when the flowers are spent, so the milk parsley hides those, so that's why I like having both of them. This one, the milk parsley, grows to about 5 to 6 feet, so it's very large, middle to the back of the border, spread about 1 to 2 feet when it's a mature plant. Both of them are perennials. They'll come back every year. They're very hardy, down to, I think, probably minus 10, minus 15, particularly hardy plants. And I just love them. Now, one of my favourite plants to grow here in the White Garden. Next, what have I got? So the next plant is Cynara cardunculus. It's a day for very hard names, but this is commonly known as the Cardoon. And some of you may recognise the foliage. It's very much in the same plant family as the globe artichoke. Only this one has tall, purple, thistle-like flowers in the summer. But you grow this, well, I grow this mainly for the lovely silvery leaves that it has. Now, this plant I grew last year down the very bottom of the Quarry garden, but it was in a windy site and it did not do well at all. I think it really needs to be in more of a sheltered position in full sun. So I'm hoping here that this will be the ideal spot for it. Last year it didn't grow much more than that, but this year it's come back quite good. Some of the leaves have been a little bit tatty and I've cut those off, but I'm going to put it in this position here right at the back. It's an architectural plant, so you really need to give it room for it to grow to its full potential. And obviously this year it won't grow as tall as what I would like. In full maturity it could be anything from 5 to 7 feet in height. Width-wise, anything to a couple of feet. But obviously it'll take a few years to get to that point. But I thought adding it here, it'll give that lovely grey colour that you want in a white garden. So that's the Cardoon. So the last plant to add today is a shrub, and it's another Viburnum. And if you've watched any of my earlier videos in the White Garden, you know that in May, end of May, June time, Two of the star plants here in the white garden are the Viburnum plicatum mauricii, and they are either side of the arbour just to my left here. So I decided to add another viburnum, but this is slightly different. The mauricii grows in tiers. It has tiers of branches, and the flowers are all the way along each of the branches when they actually do flower in the end of May. This one is slightly different. This one is Viburnum opulus rosium, and this has snowball type round flowers on the end of each of the branches. I think it may be called the snowball bush, but don't quote me on that, I'm not quite sure. Never grown this one before. But it's a very large shrub again, and it's going to go behind me here, and it'll balance the back of this border, because originally I had a large bamboo here which I've taken out last summer, and it looks a little bit one-sided now because I've got large shrubs, tree and nothing here. So hopefully this eventually will grow into a big substantial shrub. Likes to grow in sun to partial shade, which it should get in this position here. Although the two Viburnum mauricii, they're actually in full shade once the tree canopy's out. Got a big sycamore tree above me here. So they do seem to cope with a lot of shade, and the flowers last even longer because of that, I think. The garden's very moist, never really dries out, and that's another thing that the viburnums seem to enjoy. So I'm going to add that just behind me here. But I think that's it for today. That's all of the plants that I'm going to add tonight and tomorrow and the next couple of days. But I thought I would end today's video with a quick tour of the spring borders. So why don't we head over there and see what's flowering in the spring borders. So this is the hot border in front of me here. I'm in the process of making lots of changes in here. Digging out quite a few daylilies which didn't do well last year. We'll come back to another time. But down here in the spring borders, the daffodils now are just about over. They flower really early in my spring borders. The perennials, I've loved all the rain. This is all the bright red new growth, and I've got quite a few of them in here. All of the hellebores still flowering, although not as bright and vivid as what they were. But it's now the time for the pulmonarias. Got quite a few pulmonarias in there. That's blue ensign, I think, that one. Or could be Trevi's fountain. Not quite sure. But some nice white daffodils still in flower. Not quite sure what ones those are, but I'll put it on the screen. They've been really stunning. They've been in flower for longer than any other daffodil that I've got. Could recommend those. In the front we've got saxifrage. How they've flowered with all the rain, I've no idea. You can just see where the rain has made a mud bath out of all of the lawn. Hardly any grass here at the moment. I do cover over the astilbes, plants like that, with hanging basket cages, mainly because of the rabbits and also the deer. And then you've got all of this, what's left of the winter aconites, and they do stop all of the leaves coming through. All you can see now is the lovely star-like foliage that it leaves behind. Hydrangeas growing in the background there. But the next thing to flower in the spring borders will be the snowdrops. Sorry, bluebells. Get that right. Look at these perennials though. Wow, you can just see bright red, pinky red everywhere through these borders. They've just loved all this rain. Got lots of foxgloves. They'll be flowering following the bluebells. And one good thing from all of the leaf cover from the winter aconites, you don't get any weeds. I don't want weeds at all in this border. Got pulmonarias growing through the middle, euphorbias, all different bulbs hidden away amongst all of the leaf cover. More daffodils, more hellebores. Yeah. So I think that's about it. Hopefully you can hear the bird song too. That's a chiff chaff if you can actually hear it. Look at that for a lipstick pink. Incredible. Well, that's it for today from a very cold, windy, wet Northumberland garden. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.